Hi, thanks so much for joining me for another 2 Minutes with Joe. This is a very rare episode where I am with water instead of caffeine today. But no problem, still alert and hoping to talk a little bit about budgeting. I know I've been working with a lot of nonprofits this year about funding planning, talking about how big your budget should be and where you're going to find all the dollars that you need in order to operate to your optimum capacity and efficiency and effectiveness. So, in talking about money, we've had a lot of conversations about how people are formulating their budgets. And one thing that I have seen, which is common, is that a lot of small nonprofit organizations are getting a lot of things in kind that normal nonprofits or businesses would be paying for. And by this, I mean things like salaries are being paid by the town instead of the organization, or office space is being donated by a property owner instead of the organization having to pay rent. Big things. We're not just talking about somebody gave you some little things to auction off at an event. These are big expenses that a normal nonprofit or business would have to undertake that are being given as a donation to the nonprofit organization, but they're not accounting for it in any way. And where that gets some people in trouble is that things change. If COVID taught us anything, things can change on a dime. And so some of the organizations I'm working with are in some pretty nervous spots right now where politicians can change, people could change jobs. It's possible that the philanthropist who is donating their space to you so that you don't have to pay rent is perhaps an elderly or not well person. And who knows how the rest of their family feels if that space will be donated once that person is gone. So, what I suggest is that every nonprofit organization make a record of all of their in kind donations on their budgets. So that you really know the size that your budget needs to be to cover your expenses if suddenly you're forced to actually incur all of your own expenses. So, really quickly, I want to share with you a budget that I made. Totally made this one up. But you can see here, there's two columns. The column on the left is the budget for this organization without taking into account the in-kind. So you see here, total income is 132,000, total expenses 77,900, with a net income of 54,000. If you look at the right, though, we've included the in-kind donations you see here. So if you look at the bottom line, still net income is 54,250, same as it was before. But what we've done here is for this organization, we've included rent. So if this organization was going to pay rent, they're budgeting $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 in a year. If they were going to have to pay their own payroll, say the city or whoever is funding those payroll expenses stops doing that. Let's say, for example, maybe they have a full-time person at $60,000 and a part-time person at $20,000 a year. That's $80,000 in payroll. Of course, we know you'd have to allocate more because there are still payroll expenses that go with paying payroll, taxes, maybe someone who's preparing that for you. But just for the sake of ease in math, $80,000 in payroll expenses. So the total that's being donated to this organization in major expenses is $104,000. That's a really large amount of money that if suddenly this nonprofit organization had to pay themselves, it would be a big gap. Because if you were to take that away from the in-kind and deduct 104,000 from their bottom line, if you look at that, puts them 50 grand in the hole, doesn't it? So we want to be prepared for these expenses. We want to know what the true cost of doing business as a nonprofit is. So we're going to include these. So you see that in-kind donation up in the income category as 104,000. So what that does is it makes it a wash in your bottom line. So as I said before, and you can see here, it doesn't change your bottom line. You're still netting out at the same income level, but you've accounted for it. So we know now what truly this organization needs to be prepared to fundraise if they're going to have to cover all of their expenses. And I definitely recommend doing everything you can to cover all of those expenses. Put some of that money away in the bank. Save up for maybe that rainy day, maybe that philanthropist passes away, maybe your politicians change, or new town manager, whoever is helping you fund through government funding. Maybe they no longer have that job and the next person doesn't feel the same. You never know when these things are going to happen. So I always advise every nonprofit organization to go ahead and try to fundraise what their total expenses are, even if we have this really nice big pocket of in-kind up here. Let's pretend we don't, and let's fundraise for everything. That way, when we become liable for all of our own expenses, we have them covered. It's sitting there in the bank. We've been prepared. So if nothing else, do this just to give you a true accounting of what it really costs to do business for your nonprofit organization. All right, that's it. If you have questions about this, please go ahead, leave comments here in the section, or my contact information is in the YouTube channel About section. Love to hear from you. Love to help if I can. It is all about doing business as a nonprofit. So if I can help you learn how to implement more business processes in your organization, I would love to help you do that. Thanks so much. Stay hydrated.